Good morning, everyone. I look like a drowned rat. So this morning is the 4th of October, it's about 10 a.m. and I'm doing my little Sunday morning walk and talk thing again. It's quite rainy, well, it's constantly rainy, steadily raining, and it was very windy earlier, but I seem to be in more of a sheltered spot. I've got a feeling the kind of London Marathon people doing it on their own is on at the moment. I keep passing runners, and yeah, it's a bit like a motorway, even though it's inclement weather. It doesn't seem to stop people getting out walking and running. And I was determined to come out for a walk because I've been watching I can't remember what it's called, the ultimate something race. You know, it's like an eco challenge thing. And I thought, oh my goodness, if they can do that for 11 days without any sleep, I can go for an hour and a quarter walk. Yes. I've come into the cemetery, and this little spot where I'm looking over at that bridge that I just crossed over is quite a special little spot, because that's where we scattered my mum's ashes from, and we had a little small family funeral here in this cemetery for my dad because of the COVID restrictions, and we also decided on a burial rather than a cremation because there was such a long waiting list for a cremation, and also because my dad has seemed so interested in finding headstones of relatives and ancestors that we thought we should have one for them. So I think we're not allowed to say that my mum's remains are here, but we can say her ashes are scattered nearby. And when my dad passed away, when my mum passed away, my dad really wanted to buy a pink hawthorn tree, and I think it was in memory of her, but he was a very reserved person, so he didn't say that. So I think before we sell my dad's property, we might ask the council if we can plant it here and transplant it from his garden, and either put it here in view of this bridge, or at the nearer the plot where my dad is. So at the moment there is a temporary marker, because until the ground settles you can't put a headstone. There's a new headstone over there, and the date of death on that one is the 1st of January. They told us a year, so that's a pretty substantial headstone, so that doesn't look like it's going to move. And yeah, everybody else has got an abundance of planting on their relatives' graves. I've got some ideas for plants that my dad really loved, like cyclamen coon and different heathers and stuff. So I think it's about the right time of year for putting those in. And of course, winter aconites and snowdrops. That should look really nice. So this is a nice spot to sit and pay your respects. I think we might get the whinnying of a horse behind us any second. Ooh, need to protect my phone from the rain. Yeah, it is a nice spot to sit and pay your respects if it wasn't tipping with rain. Do you want an update on the challenges of this week? It's been a bit crazy. I probably need to edit the video from last week and see what I updated you with, but I know that I found out from the Flores the day before I did my Sunday walk and talk last week that my lettings agent had passed away. And the following day, there was supposed to be an engineer going to go and fix the cooker for my current tenants, and the service agreement people, can't think of words, don't know why, it's first thing in the morning, normally happens at 4:30, phoned up and said, oh, this engineer is ill and the next appointment we're able to schedule is the 6th. I think that's Tuesday. And so my tenants phoned up and they were like, because I let them know, and they phoned up and they were like, you've got to try and get it sooner, we've been without a cooker for 2.5 months. And I was like, no, 3 weeks, under 3 weeks, was when I was informed. And I had, tested the cooker and everything was working fine. It isn't just the oven really, because the hob is separate. But I think they had the grill turned on with the door shut and it shuttered the door. So I ordered some more glass for the inside of the door. But they were like, no, we told the lettings agent, weeks before that the oven wasn't working properly. It's something to do with the thermostat. It was working fine for the first 2 weeks. And I said, the messages, if you've been sending them directly to this guy rather than his assistant, I've not been getting through because he's been very ill. And actually, did you know that he's now passed away? And rather than, oh, that's a shame, I'm sorry, they were like, well, that's not good enough. There needs to be some kind of backup for this situation. I was like, okay. I said, yes, there is backup. You're speaking directly to the landlord. So that was quite strange. But then I got a call from the mother of one of these girls, who I don't have any legal arrangement with at all. She's not a guarantor or anything. She was saying, what's going to happen about the deposits. I was like, yeah, it's fine, they're in a deposit protection scheme, because that's what we were informed by the lettings agent. And they hadn't been able to get hold of his assistant, and I hadn't been able to, because he was a sole trader, so she would no longer be employed. But anyway, later on that evening they managed to get hold of her. She then phoned me and said that she realised from the conversation with them that I'd not received the email that she'd sent notifying me about his death. And it had actually gone into my junk mail because I searched for it and found it. And the bad news was he hasn't put any of the deposits in any deposit scheme, so I'm liable. And I got quite a threatening email from this mother, but I just wrote back and said, yes, I'm fully aware of my legal obligations and I can fully assure you that my legal obligations will be fulfilled, blah blah blah. I'm weighing up my options. I just told her that, and then the next day I wrote just to the tenants. No, I think I said in that email, I'm weighing up my options and will contact you shortly. So then I weighed up my options and have decided to go with another lettings agent who's prepared to take on this previous letting agent's lettings under the same premise as they already were, and so the current tenancies will stand, and I'll also just put some money from somewhere into the deposit scheme for them, so that'll sort that out. But my anxiety levels did kind of go sky high about that again. And then eventually I managed to get through to the probate, the legal advisor that we've got doing the probate, and he was saying you don't need to worry about being a little bit late with the inheritance tax, because at the moment, because of COVID, the tax office are waiving the extra interest, or the interest that starts to get charged after 6 months. When I'm editing this, if I've left any gaps, I'll fill them in when I'm editing. So that's relieved that, and then kind of just work through the work things. I booked a session with my coach because I was thinking, right, I need to strengthen my support network in this current time when one thing after another is happening, and it's very difficult to keep your anxiety levels at bay. And I had a session with her on Friday, and she was reminding me of some of the techniques that I learned a few years ago to just get your cortisol and adrenaline levels down in that situation. So that's good. So something my coach mentioned to me was a website that she's come across recently, and I'll link it below. And basically it helps you understand what your saboteurs are when you go into threat mode, and then bringing your prefrontal cortex back in charge of those, and using your sage, or like all the wisdom and knowledge and experience that you've built up over the years to get those kind of false alarm bells to silence. And there's a little free online test, and mine came out as my chief saboteur is a kind of false coping mechanism of avoidance, which of course creates more anxiety, because if you avoid sorting things out, then you are even further away from resolving things, and it creates even more anxiety. So that's something I'm working on. I think I was already working on it, thinking, no, I can't avoid this, I've got to face it and sort it out. So that's good. Right, I'm going to get walking again before I freeze to death. So this is how much it's been raining. This is the river, and when the river gets too full, to keep it from flooding the road, they've ensured that it floods this field instead. And that's beginning to flood now. Look how high it is. Pouring down that little weir as well, even for this traffic. This is the iconic mill that we have in Cobham. The wheel is often working as well, and they actually grind flour, and you can buy it, but it says it's not to be consumed because of health and safety and stuff like that, but probably perfectly fine, but there's still these regulations that there are. I'm going to cut through now this little lane here. Train. Just as I turn the video on. So today is Mental Health Awareness Day, and it just happens to be a day when my mental health's not feeling that great. I've come to my dad's garden. I don't feel super motivated to do anything. My grass seed is growing. I seeded some little bare patches of the lawn, and because of the time of year it is, the lawn hasn't grown too much, overgrown too much, so I'm not going to mow it. I could seed some other little patches. I'd really like to be able to get the leaf blower going and remove the leaves before I finish kind of scarifying and topping and seeding the lawn. But but it is nice to be out in nature. I'm just sitting by the shed and there's a vine blowing in the wind here. Birds singing. So work is very full on as usual, and I think we're always going to have more work on than we have the capacity for, so it's always going to be an exercise in prioritising and scheduling, and then just telling people, you know, the directors have decided this is a higher priority than that, so it's got shoved back. I think that's probably just the nature of things, and it's just dealing with those additional stresses of things not going quite right, or there being blockers and other teams needing to action things, and then, you know, so like, well, why haven't you escalated it, and you know, and then so when those kind of things happen and you feel like it's a reflection on you and how you do your job, then suddenly your threat mode kicks in and you have all these kind of things to kind of rationalise and battle in your mind. But I watched a really helpful video this morning from a channel called Therapy in a Nutshell, and it had a really useful tool that this therapist uses with her clients just to quickly reduce stress levels. And you write down the problem at the top of a piece of paper, and you draw 2 overlapping circles, and the one on the left is what you have within your control, what things you can do that you can control, and then the circle on the right is things that are not in your control, but where the circles overlap is what you can influence. Whether if the problem is something to do with another person, then, or other people, or another team, or whatever, it's dependent on how your influence impacts them or how they action it, but you can't control it. And it helped me see, yes, I have done everything that I can to do what's within my control, and then, you know, if that doesn't impact anything, then you can maybe change what you do slightly to try and influence it differently, and so on. So yeah, and then she also did another video with 10 things that you can action to reduce your anxiety levels, and one of them is, you know, getting out into nature, and another is exercising. So I was thinking, shall I go for a walk, or shall I come over to my dad's garden? And I was thinking my exercise would be mowing the lawn, but I've decided not to. So yeah, that's where I'm at today, this Saturday morning, and it's a bit chilly, but it is lovely being in my dad's garden. But I do have a few kind of stresses in being here, in that, oh, I should have done that, oh, and I could have done that, and, you know, that sort of thing. Whereas if it was just my garden, I would just be enjoying it, I think. Maybe I would have the same stresses. I don't really have to do anything in this garden, so maybe it's self-imposed and I need to release those things and not feel, you know, a self-imposed standard or obligation. Good morning. It is Sunday the 11th of October and I'm out for my Sunday morning walk, and it's a beautiful day. It's a little bit on the chilly side, but not for this time of year. I think it's about 13 degrees. Don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. And I was trying to follow an Ordnance Survey map route, and I was thinking, I'm sure that's private land. And when it came to the private land bit, I went, you have gone off course. And then I got to the bit where the Ordnance Survey route rejoined where I was walking, and yeah, big sign on the gate saying private land, no access permitted. So I haven't put any sculpting gel or anything in my hair, so I've got a nice bed head lit this morning. And I had a fantastic day out yesterday with some friends at Wisley. So because of the current situation, you need to book in advance, and there was only 5 of us in the end, and we'd booked for 6, but that was fine. And they're girls that I've known for over 40 years. So we have a long history together, and when you get to know people that well, that early on in your life, there's some kind of like foundation that's set that means that you can just pick up at any point. Much like when you're vlogging and have to pause because there's passers-by coming along and you don't want to vlog in front of them. And I've been feeling for a while that I probably need to process my grieving for my dad somehow. And yeah, one of my friends lost their dad a year ago, so we had a big long talk. And another of my friends, it wasn't so much that we were processing her parents passing, but we were just talking about caring for people, caring for your parents in your own home. And she was saying how wonderful it was, and I was able to tell her that at the time it felt wonderful, and it felt like I was really doing my part to help my dad have a really good ending, which I think, you know, was what happened. But I hadn't anticipated how traumatic I would have found it, so I was able to talk that through with her, and it was really good. It was really what I needed, so I was very pleased about that. And on Friday I had a bit of a tough day at work. I think I mentioned that yesterday, but a few days ago I had been watching a video by Therapy in a Nutshell, and at the beginning of her video that was about 10 ways of managing stress. Here comes another passerby. A bit of a woody bit here, so it's chilly. I put my coat back on. Yeah, so at the beginning of this video she then told a story about how important stress can be, and that it can galvanise you into action, and to use that energy, that the burst of adrenaline that you get from the flight or fight mode. I tend to go into freeze, but anyway, I managed to harness it, and really thought about some strategizing I need to do at work, and just taking some time out to rethink through strategies that we have and adjust the timelines, etc. So that's galvanised me into action, so I feel a lot more positive. so thrilled by the response of my first video in 3 years going up. I've got a few videos I'm going to upload before this one will go up, but I thought I would just record how blessed I feel, and yeah, just such a lovely response from everyone. So thank you for welcoming me back.